So, to answer immediately the first question of Miguel, why is it that for so many years we put technologies in the classroom and they're not yet there, they're not used as much as they could be used? My answer is that is the title of the talk. It's because these technologies are not empowering teachers. In many cases, we use technologies that make the teachers. In 1989, there was one model collapsing. The idea of communism was more or less collapsing, and at the same time, the idea of social learning was going up. Like two different things. The idea of social autonomy was going on, and social learning appeared at that time. And last year, it was the other way around. Last year, the liberal, the ultra-liberal economy collapsed. The American model collapsed, and now we are more talking about reintroducing individual learning into social learning. So we have these two things that I want to talk about today. Is that we have, both in economy and in education, these two ways. So in education, before 1999, the key word, the key slogan was the strength of computers is to individualize instruction. If you need 5 exercises, you will have 5 exercises. If you need 7, you need 7. And that was the key slogan of computer-based education. And when we started to talk about collaborative learning in 1987, people told me, Pierre, what is this? I mean, this is ridiculous. And it has grown then very much with the internet bubble. It was really the peak of collaborative learning. And at some point, I said, well, maybe we talk too much about collaboration because still, people are individuals. We have to equilibrate the two. So that's my talk today. I will explain you about how we came here. And I will tell you how today we should not choose between collaborative learning and individual learning. There is no reason to choose. If I ask you, do you prefer wine or beer? Well, you say, sometimes beer, sometimes wine. I have no reason to say, I only drink beer or I only drink wine. Okay, it's the same thing for these approaches. We should not oppose. As teachers, we're not forced to choose. As teachers, we don't have to say, I'm a behaviorist or I'm a social constructivist or no. These labels are only for researchers. As a teacher, we can say, I take whatever I need because I want to give the best lessons. So that's my point today. How can we integrate, instead of opposing individual learning and collaborative learning, how can we try to integrate them into our technologies? And there we integrate as well the role of the teacher. So 2 words about my university. I'm very proud because I'm the only primary school teacher in that university. That's not, that's for my colleagues that are ashamed of me, but that's, for me, I'm very proud. As Miguel mentioned, we've been doing quite well in the rankings. You see here, we're the first non-American university, ex aequo with Cambridge, as in the School of Engineering, okay, not for basic science. As engineering and computer science, we're #1, and that's not true, okay? These rankings are fake. Okay? These rankings, you can criticize them, but when you are #1 in Europe, then you use them even if you don't believe it. So, it's very useful. You should, as any university, should pay very attention to the rankings, because that's the only way to make politics. So, we are very known because there was a Swiss boat that won twice the America's Cup. So, the most prestigious sailing race was won by a country with no sea. It was almost a joke, you know, like the Jamaican bobsleigh team. And so our school was very much involved in the design of this Swiss boat. Our university was the place where Logitech is born, the leader in mouse, my tradition. Our next challenge is a plane that is covered by solar panels and will be able to do the tour of the world. Because during the day it will get energy and get altitude, and during the night it will lose altitude. And so we are a university very dynamic, based on, let's say, driven by nice projects like that. Our recent project, I did not show you that, Miguel. This is my new office. This is our learning center, called the Rolex Learning Center. I guess I'll let you guess why it's called the Rolex Learning Center. And a fantastic building designed by a team of Japanese architects. and, which is a place where students come and learning and study from 7 to midnight every day of the year. So it's a very dynamic place, driven by different challenges. Okay, now the first question is, why did it happen? What did this happen in the late 80s, where there was no internet? Well, there was internet, but it was not known. There was no World Wide Web, and everything was about adapting instruction to the needs of the learner. And how did it happen that there was this growth of collaborative learning? There were new theories coming from Vygotsky that influenced the Americans, but not only that. One of the main things was the following one. The idea of individualized instruction is that you need to have one kid per machine. The problem that in many schools there were more kids than machines, so the teachers, the only solution was to put 2 kids per machine. Logical. So in principle, if the strength of computer is to adapt instruction to the individual needs of the learner, this should be bad. You cannot individualize to 2 students, okay? If the real strength of computer was individualized instruction, this would not work. And when we did experiments, what did we find? We find that these kids, in many cases, learn more than this one. There is something wrong with our hypothesis then. If you don't individualize very well, they learn more. There is something wrong with our theory. And the point was the following one. Yes, you lose something. You lose the individualization, but you gain something else. I heard that in Chile, collaborative learning is a very popular idea, and is that a good thing? Is it true that learning in teams is effective? Finally, when you think about 2 students, one doesn't know about something, the second one doesn't know about it, and you put together. What do you got? You have a bunch of ignorance. Where is knowledge coming from? You know, what is this magic? If you think about learning as, receiving information, that should not be possible. So people made a lot of studies comparing learning individually and learning in teams. And as you can see, in the majority here are the studies where learning in teams was more effective, no significant difference, and less effective. And then you can see that in the majority of the case, yes, learning in teams is more effective than learning alone. Now, there are 2 conclusions from that. If I have to decide whether I put collaborative learning in the classroom, yes or no, I would say yes. Okay? I can take some risk, but globally, it's rather positive. It's not always an indication that there is clear result. Now, if I'm a scientist, my answer is no. No, collaborative learning is not more effective than learning alone. Because otherwise we would not have this data there. So the scientific conclusion is that in some conditions, collaborative learning is effective, but not always. So the political conclusion is yes, let's go for it. The scientific conclusion is, well, let's try to identify in which condition is it more effective. So there have been many studies like, it depends on the team, okay? For instance, is it better to have teams of 2, teams of 3, teams of 7, teams of 2 million? Like Wikipedia is a software, an environment developed by hundreds of thousands of people. What is the best size of a team? Many studies globally, in Europe, in America, people tend to go for teams of 2. Because there is less chance to have a social loafing, so one guy who does nothing. In a teams of 3, very often you have one guy who does nothing. In a teams of 2, it's less often. But then in Asia, they always go for teams of 3. 2 people interact, and the third one is the eye of Buddha. He looks at the interaction between the 2 persons. So is it better to put students from the same level? A small difference or a big difference? Is it better to put students from the same level, a small difference of knowledge, or a big difference of knowledge? The study says a small difference of knowledge. If there is a big difference of knowledge, quite often there will be the free rider effect. So the best student will not take care anymore about the low one because he will wasting his time. If there is a small difference of knowledge, they will have different solutions and they will argue and so on. If there is no difference of knowledge, there is less chance of that. Now, is it better to put girls and boys together or not? There again, many studies, and the result is that mixed pairs were the worst pairs. The female-female pairs were the best pairs, and then the male-male, and then the male-female pairs were the worst pairs. But I must say, I don't believe too much in this result because the studies were done in England. And in England, you know, men don't know how to speak to women. They don't have this Latin feeling. So I will not generalize that to Chile. And so it depends on the group. Whether it works or not depends on the group. But it also depends on what they have to learn. If you have to learn the tables of multiplication, 5 by 5 is 25. There is nothing to discuss, nothing to argue. Don't do collaborative learning on that. You know, my kids try to argue with me. I ask them, "Hey, 5 by 5. What do you mean that by 5 by 5? No, that's not the point of argumentation. Okay, so there are some tasks where there is nothing to explain, nothing to argue. So these tasks will not be good for collaborative learning. Like spelling, recognizing a word, not grammatical spelling, but I don't know how to call that knowing the spelling of a word. Okay? That's something you weigh it as a visual pattern or not. You are not learning it by argumentation or by discussion. So there are some domains where collaborative learning is effective, some of it it's not. And of course, we have the effect of domain. Is it better to have students side by side, face to face, online? If it is online, do you need audio? Do you need video? Most people believe that video is better than audio. Studies show it's not true. Do you use a chat, and so on and so on. So here is a problem. If you ask me, Pierre, when is collaborative learning effective? I will have teams of 3 with 2 girls and 1 boy. 1 high level, 1 medium, 1, and they will do this task and so on. Will that be effective? I don't know. Because all these variables are in interaction. Like the size of the group. 2 is very good for convergent tasks. But if you do a brainstorming task, 8 is better. So there is an interaction effect between the number and the nature of the task. There is an interaction effect between the level and the type of interaction. So you cannot predict. The summary is that there are so many variables that I cannot tell you if you do this and this and this and this, it will be effective. And if you change one parameters, it will not be effective. Too many variables. This is why we arrive to a 3rd generation of studies where we say, okay, we cannot predict what will happen if they will learn. But what we know is that they learn if something happens during collaboration. So it's not collaborative learning per se which is effective. Collaborative learning leads to knowledge if one of these 3 kinds of interaction occur. Explanation. If during the collaboration, for some reason, people have to explain what they know to each other, they will learn. Many studies show that. This is called the self-explanation effect. Explaining something that you learn, that you know already, improves your knowledge. Not if you repeat the same explanation 20 times, but if you elaborate a new explanation, you improve your knowledge. Argumentation. It's when you disagree. When you disagree, you have to justify, you have to argue, you have to rephrase the things. And this reprocessing of your own knowledge is a learning mechanism. So if you have teams with conflict in the classroom, you are lucky. Don't ask your kids to avoid disagreement. Push them to disagreement. And another one is mutual regulation. What is mutual regulation? And you see sometimes when 2 kids, for instance, solve an equation together, okay, on a computer or even with paper, spontaneously one of the students take a low-level role. So he's solving the equation, he's moving the x on the left, on the right, he's doing really arithmetic manipulation. And quite spontaneously, the other one step back a little bit and say, no, we are going the wrong way, let's step back a little bit. Or the same if two kids write a text together on a computer, for instance. One, take the keyboard, if you have only one keyboard and one mouse, not like in Miguel's research. One, take the keyboard and is the slave, is typing and so on. And quite spontaneously, the second one do that. And I say, well, that's not clear what to say. So one is the slave and one has more the metacognition role. That's quite often happening. And then after a while, I say, no, give me the keyboard. And the role shift. So the role is not fixed. Very often one is doing the low-level aspect and one is doing the high-level aspect. And this role shift. And what we've seen is that when you learn to regulate your partner, you become better in self-regulation later on. So it's easier to regulate your partner than to regulate yourself, because regulating oneself is difficult. When you are trained to regulate the other, then you internalize this regulation skill and you become better at self-regulation later on. So, this is a summary. Collaborative learning is not good or bad. Collaborative learning will lead to some results if you manage as a teacher that in your groups, in your class, the students explain to each other, the students argue to each other, or the students regulate to each other. And there is one sentence to summarize that. It's called the effort towards a shared understanding. It's the idea that it's not collaboration is two kids or three kids who try to understand the task together, and it's not easy. It's painful. To achieve this shared understanding, you have to explain, you have to argue, you have to justify, you have to reformulate. If it was easy, they would not learn. It's because it's difficult that they have to rephrase, to argue, and so on. So, that's the current state of research. Collaborative learning is not good or bad, it's good when this happens. Okay, so where do we go from that? So, okay, we cannot predict that, so can we focus on that? This is too difficult. But let's focus on this aspect there in the middle. And I will take one example. Okay, I'm a teacher. I say, okay, Mr. Diller Bourg, if I listen to you, I would like my students to argue. How do I do? Oh, I do that. How do I do that? And there are many things, many software that have been developed, not by me, by many people. The first one is that we give them some interface that will shape their argumentation. So this is a tool developed by Dan Sutters at the University of Hawaii. The students have to argue about why dinosaurs have disappeared. And one student said, oh, it's because of the volcanoes, and another student says, no, it's because of some meteors that fell down on the Earth. And one student says, well, the proof of my hypothesis is that there were some metals, heavy metals, found in this area that could only come from the meteors. That proved my hypothesis. So this is my hypothesis, this rounded square, and this is my data. And then the other one says, no, I have something else. I have some data that contradict this, because there is a volcano that is actually spreading the same heavy metals as the one coming from the meteorites. My data contradicts your data. And that's something I've been using that with students, they're very amazing. You see students who say, oh, it's not that I disagree with that, I disagree with that. Try to do that in a conversation. I don't disagree with what you said 2 minutes ago, I disagree with what you said 3 minutes ago. What did I say 3 minutes ago? It doesn't work. So there, it's very easy. It's a very nice tool that tries to structure argumentation. Everything we will see today is not about free collaboration, it's about shaping a little bit the way people collaborate. So there are many tools like that now, and even some of the Microsoft tools, you can use this kind of argumentation map. Another approach was with structured interface, like instead of having a normal chat, these are 4 people arguing, instead of having a normal chat, you have predefined sentences that the people can click. You cannot read them, but I say, for instance, can you explain me why? And then you complete the sentence. I disagree because, and then you continue the sentence. So it's a tool. There have been about a dozen of tools like that that try to push people to argue more by having predefined argumentation moves. That did not work very well. This one had quite a good result. This kind of approach, it's a bit too boring for people. Before to chat, to select one sentence and then to go and to click. That's not very good results. Another approach is called microscripting. Again, I'm afraid it's too small for you. So the idea of microscripting is that the students have to follow a good argumentation. So it's an approach where there are 3 learners and the system says to the first learner, please propose an hypothesis. And then he says to the second learner, please contradict his hypothesis. And then he says to the third learner, please refute his contradiction. I don't like that very much. It's very, very directive. These are systems mostly developed in Germany. Sorry, Miguel. But to be honest, they have very good results with that. They did many experiments with many scripts. We call that a script because instead of, let's say, having a free argumentation, we script, like a movie script, we structure the way they are supposed to argue. So, not extremely funny, but quite effective. And now I will show you one of the scripts that we've been using. It's still the same idea. How can you trigger argumentation in your team if it doesn't come by itself? And here it's a special script, and because my script, called microscript, are a sequence of activities. Some of them are in teams, but that was my point in the introduction. Some of them are also individual, and some of them are with a full class. So it's not anymore a collaboration script, it's already a broader idea. It's teams, individuals, and the full class. So how can we trigger argumentation with this approach? Here is the way I did. I use this script many times. First, at this individual level, I ask them a questionnaire. 10 questions. The content doesn't matter. There is no right or wrong answer. They have to answer this question reflect their opinion. And for each question, they have to type some justification. So my students answer these 10 questions, and this question reflects their opinion. And then, based on their answers, I plot them on a graph. So based on each of these 4 answers here, there was an X and Y value for each of these answers, and I can plot them on a graph. So here we have 6 students. I erase the names. And then, what you hear is a map of their opinion. Okay? Depending if you teach politics, the level of the axis will be different. I teach education, so my axis is the educational level, but never mind. This map reflects the opinion of the people. And then I show the map to the class. And there, it's a lot of fun, because the people react. If you see your name on the whiteboard, the students say, hey, look at there, look, you are there, Pierre. I knew you were an extreme right guy. Look, you are there at the top. And so, anyway, so the idea is the script aims to trigger argumentation. So what the system does, it takes people with opposite opinions and makes pairs of people with opposite opinions, because then they will have to answer the same questionnaire again while we're choosing people with different opinions. So the idea of the script is to push argumentation. Answers from Robert, the answer from Sonia, and this is the answer from Robert and Sonia when they work together. And then I intervene as a teacher. As I said, I believe teachers are very important in the classroom. And as a teacher, so I have here all the answers given by the students individually, all the answers given by the students in pair, and that's what I would have given to them in the lecture. But a lecture would be structured. Here it's called as a magma of different opinions. So my role as a teacher is to put some order in this thing, like to say, okay, question two, what did you say? You said B, and why did you choose B? Oh, because, okay, very good, okay. This is called metacognition. And you said C, because of what? Okay, well, Vygotsky called that private speech, you know that? And it was different from Piaget would talk about egocentric speech. So the students argue, the students don't have the concept, they don't have the theory, they just have arguments. And my role, very important as a teacher, is to take all these ideas they have and to turn a lecture. Okay? I say, putting some structure, giving labels to the concept, structuring the concept. Okay, this is the Russian school, this is the American school, this is the Piagetian school, and organizing this thing. So, and then they do an individual summary of this thing. So, we try that with many cases, and we look at the argument, the justification the student type when they are together, whether the answer they gave is something completely new, or they just put the two answers together, or just one of the two individual answers won. And as you can see, the conflict increase the fact that students elaborate new arguments. So we can say that this method is working. So that was my point. Okay, remember, collaboration learning does not work per se. It works if they explain, they argue, they regulate. How do I make sure as a teacher that they argue? We've seen 5 or 6 methods. We had the graphical argumentation, the microscript, MyScript, and so on. So some of them are very kind of tough methods, very coercive, high control.